Another one of our interviews talking about the first year of the Quayle administration. With me is Chris Robertshaw, Douglas East. And of course, the lone wolf, or the lone voice, maybe you should say, that the one man who didn't take up a position. I mean, that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was the right thing to do. I think there needs to be voices out there in a political arena that from time to time give a different opinion. And I think it's healthy that that's the case.
Tell me about that discussion if you can then. I mean, he wanted you in, presumably, because everyone got a job, right? And then you just went no, did you? Or did he not offer you anything? I thought you were offered something.
No, I won't go into a department.
Did you say that to him, so there was no conversation about, would you like to do something?
We never met to discuss anything.
Ah.
Yeah. I got the invitation, but I didn't go.
Right thing or wrong thing?
Right thing. Oh, absolutely the right thing.
I mean, you've gone with this guy, you know, the reform and policy reform and all that sort of thing.
I still am. I mean, I still am in many respects dedicated to seeing reform, and it's easier for me to speak outside of the system than it is in. Once you're a minister, you're constrained. It's like being in a tight harness, and it becomes very difficult to speak. And to be fair, I'd had a go at policy and reform. Alan asked me to do it. We got to the point in that administration where we knew what we needed to do, which was smaller, smarter government, and we were getting to grips with the scope of government. But then the administration ran out of steam and decided it didn't want to take the plunge into these difficult decisions. And at that point I said, well, I'll step back.
Well, I heard it was, I mean, this is obviously people talking that you wanted your way or no way when you were in Cohen. I mean, that was obviously the last government. I'm more interested in this one. But did you find that you just couldn't?
No, I just couldn't. I couldn't. There's a tendency in government, both civil service and political, to want to stay with what you know. To keep going in the
Dare I say the silos? Is that what you're basically saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And people are comfortable with it, and change is difficult. And I was a change engineer, and people didn't want to do it.
You also said you weren't going to stand again, blah blah blah, and then lo and behold, you do. You don't come top of the polls this time. I mean,
well, I'm not surprised. I mean,
why?
Well, I made a lot of very difficult decisions. I wasn't a popularist. I was trying. I mean, I was never a career politician in the first place. I'd had my career in the private sector, and I wanted to change things. And the last administration, the circumstances were extremely difficult, as you know. I mean, we've recently had a big eclipse of the sun, haven't we, in America? And what happened to that administration was, economically, it was a massive eclipse. The income flatlined completely, and at the same time we had this massive budget deficit, and some really difficult things had to be done. And we did quite a few of them, of which my name is on a fair few of them. Yes,
means testing, basically.
Oh, well, I still believe absolutely in means testing.
But that was quite a painful one for a lot of people. The health, well, going back to work, wasn't it?
Well, one of the determinations that as Minister of Social Care I pursued was that we had to put ourselves in a position where, in benefit terms, it wasn't advantageous to be out of work. And I think, and we pursued that policy, and you're seeing the repercussions of that now, in the sense that now fewer people are out of work, the economy's now picking up, and we're in a pretty sort of benign condition in that regard. What
changed your mind when you kept saying, and we did interviews over and again, you said you were not going to stand. So what was the thing that pushed you?
Real concern that we were stuck in this system of government that needed change, and I'd failed to get the ideas across into enough people to make it happen. And I thought, well, I'll go in one more time if they want me, and they almost didn't, and see if I can get people to think differently. And quite honestly, I was shocked in the first few months of the new administration that they just brushed aside smaller, smarter government and the scope of government. I mean, it's the words you can no longer speak. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. So we had the first budget in February, and the medium-term financial forecast was a fairy story, effectively. I mean, we had a situation where government was saying, okay, the gap we've now got is 25 million, but it was predicated on the concept that we were going to, they, or the government, was going to keep costs at 1% increase. Well, of course, in wages and salaries, well, of course, 24 hours after we got elected, the increase was already 2-point-something% for most staff. And that forecast at 1% increase each year was built into the system. There's no way on earth that it's going to be possible to maintain that limited level of increases for government staff. I mean, teachers desperately need an increase. Let me just finish this point, Paul. So the assumption was, okay, if they're going to hold it at 1%, then they're going to make the government smaller. They're going to constrain government. And my first instinct was, well, that's good. But then we heard nothing more. And lo and behold, government's expanding again. I mean, where on earth are we going? And then, of course, the other side of the coin, the other area that wasn't built into the medium-term forecast was the increased costs of health and social care, which are predicated to increase significantly, and yet you can't see them in the forecast either. So, in a way, this administration now has turned into a sort of a denial machine about what's going to happen. The advantage that they've got, which is a short-term one, is that as this new administration came into power, it coincided with an improvement in the economy here and worldwide. And consequently, revenues are going up, but there's a tail kickback where costs will come in. So this next year is absolutely crucial. If government retains a complacent everything's fine and doesn't take the difficult decisions in the next year or 2 years, then what will progressively happen is you'll see the increased cost of health and social care come rolling in, along with the loss of the drying up of the public sector pension fund, and inflationary issues wrapping up into a sort of a financial tsunami.
Where do you put
By then, it will be too late for this administration.
Where do you lay the blame?
The Chief Minister.
Him personally, or his people around him? I mean,
well, I think let's look at the House as a whole. I mean, the new House was a breath of fresh air. I mean, the old House, goodness me, it had got repetitive, a protracted debate. We were going nowhere. We were in a loop, in many respects, and it was appalling. This new House was refreshing. Lots of new people in, new ideas, and it's been great. In terms of the day job, I think the administration's doing a pretty good job.
Oh, well,
yeah,
okay.
In the day job, in terms of trying to achieve things. I mean, one typical example is Ray Harmer in DOI, an excellent job. What they're not facing is the need for fundamental change. That we have arrived in a situation where we need to run a cost-effective and efficient government if we're going to retain competitive taxation. And yet we've still got to deliver good quality services. And in my view, it doesn't add up. If you do honest and careful forecasting, and there seems to be a complete dearth of that in government, we just seem to lack the resources to say, okay, these are the challenges. And the government have consistently laid out the fact that there are going to be really difficult challenges with regard to demography and the like, but won't translate these into costs. So we're sort of living a lie. And the consequence of that's going to be that we're going to see a continual rollout of charges to the public.
I have to keep going back to this. Don't you think you'd be better if you'd been inside the tent?
I've done that.
And all that. Yes, you have.
I've done that. And there was a rejection of the need for fundamental change.
You can't communicate your ideas, I think. Don't you feel that's half the problem? You lack that thing of, you desperately have these ideas, but you find it hard to get people on board. Do you accept that?
If you want to place all the blame on my doorstep, that's by
I was just trying to think that,
I would put it the other way.
You're so frustrated. I mean, you must be so frustrated.
Incredibly, but I would put it the other way. Government simply does not want to fundamentally change. The senior officers are comfortable. They, in the heart of hearts, must know what needs to be done.
Are they running the show?
In many respects, yes, they are.
And you saw that firsthand?
Yes, I did, yes.
And you couldn't change it?
No, I couldn't. No. So
are we all Very worried now?
I'm certainly very worried, yes. I mean, I'm always hopeful. I passionately want things to go right for the next generation. I want government to do the right thing. It comes over as an organisation that's running for itself rather than for the people, and it needs to turn everything back to front.
Okay.
It is frustrating.
You're fascinating to talk to. I mean, we've got many more interviews over this.
Let me just say one thing about
one
thing that's coming up about means testing not being the right thing to do. It is the right thing to do. If we don't do that, where is the income going to come from? Now, if you say taxation, think about that. Go forward a few years. You've got more and more of my age group, and you're not that far behind now, are you? And we're going to need more and more health and social care services. The cost of those are going to go up. And we will have moved out of revenue earning. So are we honestly, as the older generation, going to turn around to the younger generations and say, okay, we've had a significant number of financial advantages over our life, but you're going to have to pay for everything for us. And by the way, you've got education fees.
Okay, prescription charges, where would you go there? Would you go much higher then? You know, people who need it, they've got to pay for it. The bar, means testing.
Somebody like me should pay more.
Because you can afford it.
Because I can afford it. But those above benefits now who can't afford it are getting hit because we're not bringing means testing in. It needs a fundamental mindset change, and the current Chief Minister seems to spend most of his time worrying about Brexit. That's important, but the elephant in the room is being ignored, and it's a worry.
What do you give them out of 10 as a government?
Well, let's break it down a bit. I mean, I'd give Parliament 8 out of 10 because it's been a significant improvement.
Okay.
I'd give government 8 out of 10 for its programme for government, its commitment to the job. In terms of strategic forecasting and understanding what it needs to do, because that's part of government, 3 out of 10 if you're lucky.
3 out of 10?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow, and what do you give yourself?
Probably 3 out of 10 on some things.
No one gets himself 3 out of 10. You should resign if you give yourself 3 out of 10. Come on, how do you rate your performance?
Well,
I know you're doing your own rating here, but
I'm encouraged by. I mean, the 2 things I set out right at the beginning of this new Parliament was I wanted to get a focus on single legal entity, which I achieved. And the second thing I wanted to achieve was a focus on a residential code for each individual person, and that's moved forward. I was pleased with that. I was pleased with what happened with the jury.
Well, I'm glad you're pleased, but just what do you rate yourself?
Well, if I'm to measure myself on my ability to deliver, not very good at all, because I can't get that message over.
And this is anyway. We're going round here, but are you going to see the term out?
Oh yes.
No hissy fits walking out, fizzing the dummy.
It was never a hissy fit in the first place. It was a decision of recognition that administration did not want to do the difficult things. I couldn't change it from the inside. I'm talking about
so
from the outside.
If Mr. Quayle came to you tomorrow and said, right, I made a mess, we need some new ideas, Chris, will you come on back in?
Well, that's hypothetical because that's not going to happen, is it?
That's hypothetical, but would you even think about it? If he came to you,
if there was would
you not be charmed? Would you not feel
a little bit old to be
Come
charmed?
on.
No.
If he asked you?
If the argument was and I don't think realisation is going to dawn until about year 3, 4, by which time it's too late for this administration. So at that point...
Are we all doomed then?
No, we're not doomed, because you've got to have hope and optimism and believe.
Are you half full?
Never give up.
Half empty?
In some respects, we're more than half full. In terms of getting this concept of a modern, efficient government that really delivers to the populace, we've got a problem. And if this administration doesn't resolve it, I'm hopeful that the members in the next administration will do it.
This is the end this time, is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You've said no. I'm sorry. You said before. I'm sorry. When you say something, and then you change your mind. I mean, on the record here, definitely.
Mark my words. No. Absolutely.
Enough's enough.
Yeah, and no MLCs if you're going to ask me that.
Well, we'll do, obviously.
No.
That's it.
That's it.
But we've still got 4 more years. Well, yeah. Into the countdown of 4.
Let's hope that in the next 4 years that the reality dawns, and that we seriously begin to face up to things we keep talking about but never translate into numbers and an understanding of their impact on people's lives.